Everyone experiences challenges in life, and there are going to be times when you feel like giving up. Let me share the secrets to success through adversity. Death from birth and challenged in many ways, I learned to look at life differently and found success. Life will never give you cotton candy, so stop looking for it. Join my podcast and learn the secrets of success through adversity. Stop making excuses and start taking action. I'm your host, Jordan Levin. Welcome to All Good Things Start With You.
Jordan's a coach, author, speaker, podcaster, and owner of CrossFit Bloomfield, and was also born deaf. He's going to be taking us down a lane of a lot of really interesting stories of his own life lessons and experiences around resilience and how he overcame disability and how he was relentless in the pursuit of dreams. He's very inspirational, both to the gym where I go, but also others in the community. He's been very connected to the disability community and other organizations in the area, and has a lot of great stories and messages to share with us today. His goal, as it says here on the screen, help people excel in their endeavors and realize all good things start from within. So I'm really excited to hear his presentation today. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and let Jordan take over. And I think that's it. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. Jordan, it's all yours.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, everybody who is involved in this group to make this happen. I've had a few meetings with some of the directors of this group, and I was I'm very honored to be here today. And I hope that we can all learn something. What I always say, if we can learn from each other, that makes me happy. So that's the goal for today. So, as Adam said, I'm going to be giving you a little bit of a brief intro of who I am, what I'm all about, and then I am going to get into my presentation portion of it, which is going to be focused on my 10 good habits. And the idea behind the good habits is to help you develop those habits and recognize where you are today and try to help us focus on what's coming ahead, because a lot of times we tend to kind of look back at different things in the past, and I try to live by not worrying about what happened in the past and focusing on what's going forward, because for many of us, whether you have a disability or what I call abilities, because I don't consider myself with a disability, we all have abilities that we can always enhance upon. So whether you have a disability, whether you have friends and family with disabilities, I hope we can all learn from each other. So at the end of each section, I will instruct you, if you want to, completely voluntary to participate in the survey questions. Um, so, um, so we all know my name is Jordan Levin. I am 44 years old and I am profoundly deaf. But what does that mean? That means if I do not have my hearing aids in, that means that if you had an airplane next to me, I would not be able to hear the airplane. So imagine trying to live your life without sound. I'm sure it's not easy. But I was born 3 months premature, 11 inches and 31 ounces. This is back in 1976 when there was no hearing testing available. Obviously, today there's much more hearing testing going on. When I was born, the doctors told my parents that I would probably have a 10% chance of survival. Obviously, I am here today, and I'd like everyone to understand that for the first few months of my life, I was in the hospital, but I was also on a respirator for the first 2 months. I had also, during that time that I was in the hospital, I had many complicated uh, life dangerous surgeries where there was a possibility of not coming out alive. Obviously, admitted. And from that point on, when I actually was released from the hospital, my parents brought me home, and that began this whole journey of how we're going to help Jordan develop. Well, one of the main concerns during those first couple of years was on my physical development because the doctor said that I would probably have very complicated things coming up forward. So his focus was so much on my physical development that perhaps they missed or they found out that I was deaf. Well, I was 2.5 years old when they found out I was deaf. Well, what happened? Why did they wait so long? Again, because they were so focused on my physical development. So think about what a doctor tells you that your kid is deaf. That's a very devastating diagnosis. And also at that time, the doctors told my parents that I would probably never be able to speak or listen at that time. And how do you think my parents took that? Well, they didn't accept no further. So my parents became dedicated to understanding and researching and asking questions and finding out what could they do to, I'm going to use this very broadly. What could they do to get me to be as normal as possible? But as we know, there is no normal. So let's just throw that out the window. So basically, from that point on, they began to ask questions, and the doctors obviously said that I won't be able to speak. So they took it upon themselves and said, "What could we do?" And basically, from there, they were able to find a couple of different doctors. They ended up in a conference in Toronto where I was 2.5 years old at this time, and I have no speech. I'm not hearing anything. And they went to this conference where this woman left such a huge impression on my parents. She's that older woman standing up there on stage and was literally pounding her fist and said, if someone tells you your hearing impaired child cannot do something, don't you believe it? That became our mantra from that day forward. And basically, from that point, that woman said, the doctor said, why don't you come to my care center in Pasadena, California? So I believe a couple of weeks after that, we ended up in California for 3 weeks. And one of the most important concepts that she said to my parents was, first and foremost, that a hearing impaired child has to be treated like any other child. That child has to be taught confidence that they can do anything, that nothing is beyond their reach. But they took that advice, and although it was a monumental struggle at times, their determination never wavered. And for us, like, I want you guys to think about this. Just because you put hearing aids on someone doesn't mean that they are going to be able to hear. So the painstaking task of teaching me how to listen and speak is obviously a very monumental one. So basic sounds that babies, when they speak, they'll say ma ma ma, ba ba ba. I had to be taught every single sound, enunciation, every single thing from day one. And obviously, that was very tedious. And you think about it, as a baby, you guys hear all of these sounds. You guys can begin to associate what those sounds were. I was not able to associate what the sounds are. So at that time, I was also fitted with hearing aids. So with the aids of my hearing aids at that time, probably only hear about 25 to 35%. I believe now it's much higher for me. It's probably in the 40 to 50% range. So I actually just got these new hearing aids. So I'm hoping that pushing me up to that 60 or 70 range. But I will be honest with you, I have to teach myself, force myself to listen more, especially with these new hearing aids. So, like everything else, it takes time and practice. So let's talk about really quickly about the intonation. I had to be taught everything. Intonation, breath control. My mom would play these scales on the piano, and I would have to literally sit there with her and practice the sounds while she was on the piano. So here's what I want to do. Here's a quick example of something with breath control. So if everybody can do me a favor, well, I can't see what you guys are doing, but if you put your hand up and you say the word put, P-U-T, you should be able to feel the P breath control on your hand. Okay? So I had to, that's how I learned how to get the proper breath. Another example, I had a very hard time saying certain words. So my father came up with this really cool thing where he would put chocolate on the roof of my mouth. And I loved chocolate, and I still do. But that was very easy for me to do. So continuing on to lip reading, I'm actually very good lip reading. And a lot of times people will, talk with their hand in front of them. Well, that's going to be very hard for me. But I finally admitted to my parents that my dad had a little bit of a issue with the way he covered his hand like this with a little bit of a gap. So I was actually able to fool my parents just a little bit in terms of actually hearing, which probably wasn't the smartest idea. So I can actually lip read somebody with a toothbrush in their mouth, especially if you're looking at the mirror. If you're looking at the mirror and brushing your teeth, I can still reach your lips. But my cat and birds still give me trouble with lip reading. So one of the things that we were told at the Hear Center was that I need to attend regular schools so I have the same opportunities as everybody else. It was imperative to talk to the teachers and let them understand the importance of me being treated like everybody else. On top of all of this, during school, I had such a hard time in school, not just because I couldn't hear, but because I actually didn't have any understandable speech until the third and fourth grade. And if you fast forward just a little bit, I happened to be ADHD. Well, we didn't find out about that until I was 17. So that's another story for another day. So I have one quick funny story I want to tell you. So I, growing up, we, as you all know nowadays, we have closed captioning on the TV. Well, in the early years, there was no closed caption on the TV. We had gotten this big box. It looks like a VCR. So what we would do is we would take this VCR, we would take the closed captioned box with us on every single trip that we went on. And we always put this in a hockey skate box wrapped in duct tape, and we would carry it on the plane. So wherever we went, I was able to participate watching TV just to get everybody else. But interesting enough, one day, I honestly do not remember what time or how old I was. I was watching TV, and before the TV show began, it said closed captioned for the hearing impaired. And I looked at my parents, And I said, wait a minute. Does that mean I'm hearing impaired? I didn't pay attention to those things, and it took me that long to realize that perhaps maybe I had a disability. But like I said, I always make sure I utilize my abilities. So having to kind of sum this up just a little bit, looking back at all of this, I realized that I started to develop all of these good habits. In order for me to overcome adversity, I had to practice so many things over and over and over again until it was ingrained in me, which is what allowed me to become successful. And regardless of anybody's abilities, disabilities, successful, not successful, everybody needs to be able to recognize and appreciate the habits that they currently have in place. Or if you are struggling with specific habits, you need to recognize that so that you can change that and make it better. So I am grateful for all of the opportunities that I was given. And that leads me to my first habit of gratitude. Very, very important. And this is an example of something that when I look back, that I recognized that I have gratitude for this. So when I was in elementary school, the principal didn't even want me in that school. And that was a very hard thing for my parents to understand. But they knew where they wanted to go. And they basically told the principal and said, no, Jordan is going to be in this school. He is going to be mainstreamed from there. So can you imagine, think about this, can you imagine an educator not seeing the value in a child? Think about it. You and your abilities in their school. Only judging a book by its cover, which is exactly what we are taught not to do. A very magical moment is beginning to take place, the habit of gratitude. You see, we either have a choice to sulk when one door shuts, or we can be grateful when we're given the opportunity to rise to the occasion and become problem solvers. We learn to become our own private investigators. Our superhero skills are starting to sharpen the moment we can be grateful for the growth that we find through our challenges. Take a moment, maybe close your eyes just for a second, and just think about one thing you can acknowledge in your day that you can be grateful for. So think about that every morning when you wake up before you go to sleep. You could start off with something as simple as the bed that you sleep in or the bowl of cereal you eat in the morning. It could be as significant as your family. It is all about honoring where we are currently and building from there. Before you know it, you will find yourselves instinctively building a foundation of gratitude. So, having said that, I would like to invite you to go on to Menti if you wish, and go ahead and submit your responses. I see that some of you have already done that, and I appreciate that. So let's take just 30 seconds or whatever, and go ahead and remember, I'm the only one that can see the responses. And remember, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Google chat, and I will do my best to answer them as we move along. So let me just look at these real quick. Um, so as I'm looking at this, and I appreciate you for doing this, it seems that everybody seems to be very much grateful for family. I completely agree with that. Then number two seems, ooh, okay, whoa, we got some movement going around this one. So three of these seems to be number one so far, and it looks like friends and health right now are kind of tied for second place. Ooh, yeah. It looks like I actually really like this one because I'm appreciative of where the guys are putting the information there. So Freedom is number one so far. Friends and Health are tied for second. Work is third, fourth, and then Money is at the bottom. So that's very interesting to think about. My second habit is honesty. Living in your truth will allow you to let your authentic self shine. Most importantly, it will allow you to meet yourself where you are and set realistic goals. If you are honest with yourself and honest with your own expectations, therefore, your relationships and expectations of others will also be rooted in honesty. Every action has a reaction. So if our choices and statements we put out into the world are not honest and true to ourselves, how does that impact those around us? So, when I think of that, for example, I think of that as a lot of times we tend to react to a situation and we are so quick to jump into that reaction that sometimes we don't think about what we're saying before we say it. But the truth of the matter is you need to just go with, I'm not saying go with your gut, but go with what is true for yourself. You never want to assume anything because you don't know what the other person is going through. So sometimes you have to take that kind of a step back and kind of think about, be receptive and understand possibly maybe something else going on with the other person. So having said that, am I hard of hearing? Yes. Do I look at that as a disability? No. If anything, my other senses are more heightened, whereas those that have all of their senses might even be more even or dulled. I am much more aware of my surroundings. I am always being honest with myself, and what I need has allowed me to be where I'm at today. I know what I can do. I know what I need to work on. I know that being honest with myself will allow others to be open and honest with me too. When you create an honest expectation of yourself, that is exactly what you will get and receive from others. So take a moment and say a statement to yourself that is honest and true. It might be, I am great with people, or my computer skills surpass Bill Gates. If it is true and honest, then live and breathe it. Maybe your truth is as profound as I will always take a front row seat. I will always take front row seats to witness my own potential. Okay, so let's do the next slide, which talks about honesty. And again, the I will not be able to uh, I'll be able to see the results. You guys won't be able to. It's kind of an open-ended question. So go ahead, take a minute and think about something in relationship to being honest with yourself. I actually right now actually cannot see the results. So I'm not going to worry about it. I can take a look at it afterwards. But I do appreciate you being honest with yourself. Habit number three, which I call acknowledge your self worth. Well, what does that mean? Acknowledge your self worth. You have the privilege and the opportunity to take up space in this world with your passion, insight, and unique individuality. The only person who could take that from you is you. If you put yourself down assuring yourself you are only stealing from the value you can offer. On the same note, if you were to hold someone else up on a pedestal, you are stealing from their ability to be part of a community, potentially leaving them to feel lonely. Everyone is worthy of health, knowledge, friendship, and opportunity. We don't steal from others or ourselves. Instead, we can simply grow and acknowledge that as individuals, we are worthy. When we hear that someone is in the 80s or 90s, we automatically assume that that person must need assistance with something, whether it be the stairs, grocery shopping, or daily odds and ends. Why? Because we associate a number with an idea. We have already stolen an individual's ability before we've even gotten to know the individual. Being in the fitness industry, I have worked with many people, ranging from children to people in the 80s. I have seen that age is just a number. I have also seen that quote unquote disability is also just a word. Before you go to bed at night, or if you are having one of those days, stop and remind yourself that you are you, a unique individual before you are your job, a student, a spouse, or a parent, or whatever label a doctor gives you. You were you first before any of that. No one can take that away. That brings me to the next slide. And again, I would appreciate if you are able to participate. So acknowledging your self-worth, you'll see a couple of options on there to submit your information in that. And I while you're doing this, just thinking about it because we tend to let these things kind of go by the wayside, and we are so busy with everything that is going on. And I've learned try my hardest. Don't get me wrong, I don't do it every day, but I really try to. And I try to take a couple of minutes, and especially in the morning when I first wake up, I would sit at the edge of my bed and I would just say to myself, okay, I acknowledge that I am here today and that I am going to make the best of my day. If I say that to myself, I'm being present at that moment and I'm telling myself, okay, I'm going to move on with my day. If I flip the switch and I look at my phone and I go, oh man, this is going on. Whatever it is, it's probably going to mess me up for the day, but I don't let it mess me up for the day, is what I'm getting at. I want to always try to be as positive as possible. So acknowledging where you are is how I look at that. So, looks like we have some pretty good responses here. Looks like we have the higher percentage that people are not acknowledging this self-worth. Then we have a number that it's about 33% say never, at least 29% say 3 times a week, and then 25% say at least once a week, and then we have about 13% that say every day. Again, there's no right or wrong answers here. This is just something to think about. Habit number 4, mindfulness. Pay attention to your surroundings. That could start with slowing down when you eat, which would lead to better digestion. It could be being more thoughtful and attentive while driving. Rereading an email before pressing send, crossing your T's, dotting your I's. When you move with mindfulness, it shows that you care about the small things which transcend into big things. Mindfulness allows room for knowledge and growth. For someone with heightened senses, the habit of mindfulness might be an innate action. Mindfulness can be something as simple as just taking the time to chew slowly. It could also be as simple as taking the time to look at the people you are speaking to rather than looking at your phone in the middle of the conversation. Most habits take time to see change in benefit. However, practicing mindfulness has an immediate domino effect. When you chew slowly, your digestion is better. When you acknowledge people during a conversation, everyone feels cared for and heard. I attended a hockey camp in Michigan State University when I was a kid. I didn't know anybody there, and even though I was brought up in a way to never look at myself as different, at a certain point, kids do become aware of what makes one different from another. I understood, maybe not in so many words, but definitely through instinct, that walls are built by fear. They are built by the inability to ask questions in a kind, sensitive, and sincere manner. Walls are also built in an effort to protect, deflect, and isolate. Being mindful during human interaction means breaking down walls in order to bring people together. I decided to show the kids at this camp that my superpower of lip reading. We tested how far down the hall I could read someone's lips. The kids had such a kick out of it, but that was just my immediate way of just getting people comfortable with me. So mindfulness is reading the room, it's sharing. We all deserve a seat at the table. It's all about how we care for ourselves and care for others. When you are about to gather with one person or a group, think about not only what you want to share for yourself, but you want others to receive. That brings me to the next slide of mindfulness. I believe in this one you can choose three, three to four options of where you think you fall on the scale. So if you don't mind, go ahead, take a little bit of time to do that. Again, voluntary, but I do appreciate it. I am going to continue on with the next habit, so we can keep the conversation going. Habit number 5, generosity. Generosity. Being of service, giving to others doesn't always mean donating money or lending your time to a cause. Those things are incredible and honorable things to do. However, when was the last time you slowed down and just spent more quality time with a loved one or reached out to someone you haven't talked to in a while? Helping someone and just truly giving quality time and showing others you truly care impacts others more than you realize. I'm just kind of watching watching some of your responses and the mindfulness, and I find this very interesting. It looks like at the top of the scale is people feel that they are friendly, and that seems to be the highest number at this point. Then it goes into inquisitive, which I love. I love that inquisitive because you have to always be inquisitive in order to get to where you want to get to. If you're not being inquisitive, you're not going to get to where you want. And then I think that's wonderful. Donating money and time for various organizations is something that most of us do and feel good about. What about our work life? You know you're in the field you are passionate about when even after hours you want to serve others. I am passionate about CrossFit not only because of its methodology, but because it's become a hub for people to hold each other accountable and create a sense of community. It has become a place where non-profitable charitable organizations can come raise money and awareness through the spirit of fitness and hopes to lend a helping hand to those in need. It is a space where I grew up with the emotional burden lifted off of my shoulders. This place where I see each individual's vulnerability unfold. I see each person work from the ground up and achieve epic milestones. No one is left by the wayside. Diligence and care was poured into me And that is what I believe everyone deserves as well. My job, my privilege is to be able to ask, how can I help you? Wherever we are, sometimes generosity boils down to opening the door for someone else, saying thank you, or even telling someone you appreciate them. Ask yourself if you have a little bit more space in your mind and heart for some extra kind thoughts for someone or something else today. That brings me to the next slide, if you don't mind. Here number 6, movement. Movement is just simply whether it be CrossFit, yoga, Zumba, a bike ride, or going for a casual walk, which is so important for both our mental and physical well-being. It is like an internal shower. When we are keeping our bodies and minds strong, healthy, mobile, we are producing endorphins, which ignite positive attitudes. That benefits everyone, everything that we have interaction with. I grew up playing sports. Anything from hockey to baseball to water ski to windsurfing. Sounds like a pretty normal little boy, right? Well, at a very early age, children enter music classes, gymnastics, swim, and even dance. Why? Hand-eye coordination, developing good proprioception, and social interaction. The need for that lesson because my ears didn't work the same way that someone else's did. In fact, that was probably even more vital to development and sharpening of my other senses than I think anyone, even myself, ever realized. I'll never forget. I took my wife ice skating when we were still dating. Keep in mind, she can hear, but it's not the best ice skating. I asked her to hold my hands, and I would lead the way skating backwards. The rink was filled with people. The look of fear was plastered across her face. She put her hands in mine, and I led the way, weaving in and out of the crowd. Growing up with sports, you understand the meaning of teamwork and camaraderie. If someone has to sit out on the bench, you never look at your team and dwell on what you don't have. You figure out the plays and the strategy you can make do with what you do have. I learned to look at my body as a team within a team of whichever sport I was playing at the time. If it was hockey, I could see the reflections of players off the plexiglass on the sideboards. The smell and the feel of the ice were warning signs of where the best and worst places to skate would be. I was able to give myself eyes in the back of my head and let the arena work in conjunction with my other senses rather than just to be a place to play in. Because of this, my wife was able to trust in my ability to lead. Anyone can move, even if someone has limited mobility. The act of focusing on breathing can be considered movement. Regardless of your abilities and of the movement you can access, your emotional well-being will shine that much brighter. And the next slide talks about movement. How important is movement in your life? And basically, you can mark the sentences that apply to you. Now, I'm going to just continue on. I want to make sure we get everybody out of here in time. Habit number 7, showing appreciation for every small achievement, even if that means getting out of bed in the morning or a large achievement such as a job promotion. Be content and let yourself be in the moment before rushing into the next challenge. Part of moving up is appreciating and respecting the journey. If you rush through, then you risk missing out on the lessons you will learn along the way. And also respecting boundaries. Think about what a child learns to walk. Every step is a huge accomplishment. Nothing changes as we get older. The steps just look different. It is important to recognize our present space. it is then we can keep constant account for what was helpful or harmful on our duties so that we can grow even better in our future. So that's just a general one on the appreciation. I will go ahead and you can take your time. And again, I appreciate you. And the next slide when you're ready. So with the appreciation one, you see kind of a couple of different examples, and I believe you can pick up to three of them. Habit number 8, taking a timeout. Timeouts are normally associated when a child does something wrong. You know, you guys have heard this before. The word no, in my mind, has a negative connotation. And we tend to kind of pull back when we hear the word no, but I'm trying to kind of flip the switch a little bit in understanding that the no doesn't have to be uh, as strong as the word no. But we also have to kind of taking a time out is the kind of something we need to kind of sit with ourselves. If it's only a minute or two, and remember that we're individuals before we are employees or employers, husbands, wives, mothers, fathers, etc. During those timeouts, we might have to come back to the place where we can tap into our passions of singing, playing ball, painting, reading, or just finding freedom in stillness. A moment of stillness could be really simply remember to unclench your jaw, breathe easy, whether it's education, a good book, or a yoga class. Time off is a way to unwind and recalibrate. How did you unwind? How did you unwind? Understand the timeouts are not selfish, they are selfless. So the next slide talks about taking time out. Again, you've got a bunch of different options, and you can, I think you could do up to 4 of those. Habit number 9, letting go. Kind of an important one that I like. Recognizing what's holding you back. Maybe it's thoughts or attributes you may have held in the past that don't pertain to you now. Free yourself of who you were yesterday and recognize who you are today. Sometimes letting go means that it's okay not to get everything under to do this for the day done. If your list are consuming you to the point where you feel like you are losing sight of your health and well-being, let it go. If you cannot feel the ground below you and breathe the air around you, let it go. Regardless of what our abilities are, we are all human. What makes us happy one year doesn't mean that it will fulfill us 10 years from now. I used to own a printing company. I was a young 20-something. I still have an entrepreneurial spirit. I always knew I wanted to own my own business. This seemed like be a great opportunity. What it was, I learned so much in terms of management, production, delegation, building and maintaining client relationships, and more. However, my passion for fitness and wellness had never wavered. My personal health was starting to take a back seat to my career. If I was ever going to be the boss and owner that I wanted to be, I had to let something go. That sure was not going to be me. I had to switch gears and pivot. I knew I was capable of owning a business, but the business that was meant for me also had to be in alignment with my passion. By letting go, I was getting back life. Think about something that you were able to let go of so that you could grow. Maybe it is a physical thing with space, maybe it's an emotion. On the next slide, if you don't mind, we're going to be able to kind of talk about letting go. I believe there's 2 questions where what have you let go of recently and what do you want to let go? And I think these are kind of important points to think about because we hold on to so many things and it just consumes us. And we have to learn when to stop and say to yourself, okay, you know what? I can't control that situation anymore. Time to let go and move on. Habit number 10, making the commitment, making a obtainable list. organize, commit to yourself, the passion you have put into play, and ask yourself, what are you realistically able to commit to? If you cannot follow through, what kinds of expectations do you hold on other people? Setting yourself up for success means your goals need to be achievable. I graduated from Michigan State University in 1999. I've had multiple careers. After graduation, I lived in Vail, Colorado. Moved back to Michigan. I owned and sold a printing company. Moved to Miami Beach, Florida. Worked in retail for Target. Don't ask me about that. But it was a great learning experience. And then I became a real estate agent in Florida. That was another interesting experience. I moved back to Michigan in 2005 and I became a fitness trainer. In 2007, I wasn't making very much money. I had to get a job in corporate America. I got laid off in early 2009, and in June of 2009, I got married to my wonderful wife, Levin. In October of 2009, 10 years after searching for something that aligned with my passion, I started across the room. I saw the green light and knew I was ready for my next journey. I made the commitment to myself, dedicated everything to making the gym thrive with a vibrant community and coaches. That also means that you will make mistakes along the way. It is how we grow and learn from those mistakes. These are lessons to learn and to find areas for improvement. In the last slide, talking about making the commitment. So there's a couple of things on there, and to sum up everything that we've learned here today, gratitude is the most important thing. It's the foundation of everything that we do. It's all about you. You are awesome. Only you can change you. What are you waiting for? What do you have to lose? Nothing. This is your time. And one of the thoughts and quotes that have always guided me throughout my entire life is a quote from Helen Keller, who was deaf and blind. She said, life is a daring adventure or nothing at all. So if you still looking on the questions and whatnot, I truly appreciate it. And by the way, if you're not finished with that's okay. You could always continue it afterwards. So that's what I have for you today. And Adam, would you like to add anything?
No, I did want to open it up, though. We have a couple of minutes left, so if there's any questions people want to ask, they can take themselves off of mute and ask, or put it in the chat. We can read those as well.
Sure. This is Carolina. I have a question for you, Jordan.
Yes.
In regarding to early on, you were saying that you were able to read lips, and I'm originally from Mexico City, and as me, there might be other people out there from different countries, which English is not actually our native language. So the way we enunciate and pronounce things is maybe different in many different ways than others. So how do you deal with people that is not a native born American?
I love that question. I really do. And it is not easy, but I did take a little bit of Spanish in high school, and that was very hard for me because of the differences, obviously, in the language, but the enunciation of it. And believe it or not, I believe through the years I've gotten quite good at telling word of what country that person is from. So I could tell if someone's from Mexico or France or any of these different countries. And what's funny about that is we were watching a British show, and my wife said to me, "Can you speak British with that heavy thick?" Absolutely, I was actually able to do it. So it comes from a lot of practice. But I will say, for anybody who has a thick beard and a heavy accent, it's very, very, very hard for me. So that's a challenge.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, I know we are at 1:59. I don't see any questions here in chat. So I think, Jordan, we'll wrap up for the day. I really appreciate you taking the time today and speaking to the group and the team, and giving some of the stories in history, as well as some of your 10 tips. Very inspirational, very interesting. So I really thank you for your time today. With that, I think we're ready to wrap. Thank you for everyone that's joining. Thanks again, Jordan. Thanks for our special guest as well. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congrats
on your success, Jordan. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions, just feel free to go to my website, shoot me an email. If you guys have any upcoming events coming up, I'm happy to sit down and talk. And we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you so much, Jordan. I appreciate it. Learned a lot today.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it was a blast. I'm glad you were able to be here. Thank you for listening. Please check out my website for more great content at jordanlevin.com.